Hello, how are you today? We are going to discuss lesson number 7, and this one is entitled A Sacrifice Without Compensation. And to begin with, please listen to this opening story that happened during the Korean War. So, on a cold winter day, an American soldier was retreating to a deep valley and he heard a strange sound. So as he listened to the sound closely, it was the cry of a baby coming out from a snow pit. So while the American soldier cleared away the snow to take out the baby, he became shocked. So a naked woman was lying there, dead, embracing the baby. In order to save the baby, the woman took off all her clothes to wrap up the baby, and she froze to death with the baby in her embrace. The American soldier, who was deeply moved by this one, dug up the frozen ground and buried the mother. He then took the baby with him and raised the baby as his son. So on a snowy winter day, an old American man and a young Korean man stood before the grave. The baby grew up as a young man and visited his mother's grave, together with his American father. So listening to the story of his mother who passed away to save him many years ago, the young man cried and cried. The young man cleared away the snow on the grave with his two hands, and he took off all his clothes and covered his mother's grave with his clothes. So he said to his mother, who passed away crying, he said, "Mother, how cold were you on that day?" So that is a story about how a mother sacrificed to her child during that Korean War. And so we are going to focus in this lesson about sacrifice. And to continue, let's have exploration number 1. My happiness is based on others' sacrifice. So I know you are familiar with this story about the giving tree. So this one is entitled, Is My Happiness Achieved on My Own? So we are going to answer by watching this video.
The Giving Tree by Silverstein. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older. And the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk, and swing from my branches, and eat apples, and play in my shade, and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money, and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad, And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I am too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered, "come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I am sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could, "well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did, and the tree was happy. The end.
There you have it. So what did you realize while you are like watching the story about the giving tree? Yes. Are you familiar with this story? I know you are familiar. So is my happiness is our happiness or my happiness, your happiness can be achieved by ourselves or by on my own? In this story, we have realized that our happiness is coming from other people. It's because of other people's sacrifice. Okay, if you are going to take a look at this phrase from the story, it was uh, it states that I am sorry, sighed the tree. I wish that I could give you something, but have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry. But the boy, which is already old, said, I don't need very much now. Just a quiet place to sit and rest. So, well, said the tree, straightening herself up as she could. Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest. And both of them became so happy. So, where the happiness coming from? Yes, from other people. The happiness of the old man is coming from the tree, and the happiness of the tree is coming from the boy. So, did you answer the question? Is my happiness achieved on my own? Yes. And now let's proceed to this one. Point number two. A tree that protects its child tree. Do you know that in the forest, the mother tree is really taking care of the baby tree? In what way? By shading, okay? By protecting from the wind, from any harm. That is why, because of this protection being given by the mother tree to the younger tree, look at the bark of the tree in the forest. It's actually, you know, yes, well protected and it is healthy. Okay, because takes time to grow. Well, take a look at the trees that are not protected by the mother tree, like the trees along the street. Can you compare now the bark? Yes, it is not too good compared to the forest trees. You get it? So still, in this example, we can say that even nature can show us, I mean, it can showcase how, yeah, sacrifice could actually help, you know, other people, or even, for example, a mother tree sacrifice to the younger tree can what makes the younger tree stronger and healthier. Now, another example is point number 3, animals' paternal and maternal love. This can be seen um, by giving this example, how the penguins, like from April, for example, is having the mating, or for during mating, and then June to July, the males incubate the eggs. That's how the paternal love is being shown. And then in August, there will be like hatching, and then there were the father will feed the chicks, okay, during that time, September and October. Then the chicks from the groups to stay warm during October and November. And during that time, the father will take care of the young ones, and the mother will go, uh, far to feed herself. Okay, but there are times that the mother will come back or will return to what to nurse or to take care of the young penguin. Okay, so it's actually a paternal and maternal love being shown in this example, right? So same, this is what a mother's and a father's sacrifice to his or to her child. Now let's proceed to exploration number 2, the value of sacrifice and examples. Okay, so we'll have point number 1, discovery of a work worth sacrificing for. So this is the story of Desmond Tutu, wherein for a longer time he actually fight for freedom of the black African, because during that time in South Africa um, there is like some discrimination between the white and the black. So there are instances wherein younger children, black children, like is asking, "Can we play there in the park?" And then the father would answer, "No, you cannot, because we are not allowed to go there because we are black. So the only children who can play there are the white ones." So that is the discrimination they are facing during that time. But Tutu is what? Fighting for their freedom. But you know how they got the freedom? It was when Nelson Mandela won in a presidential election, and that freedom was given to them. Okay, let us watch this video to understand more about how they got their freedom through Nelson Mandela.
Apartheid in South Africa crumbled after Nelson Mandela walked to freedom, but black people suffered decades of government-backed injustice before it did. Apartheid really began in 1948, but separating black Africans from the white minority had long been a policy aim. Laws made white people officially superior, and the large black majority faced discrimination in every aspect of their lives. Living, doing business or owning land in white areas was banned. There were separate public facilities, transport and schools. Interracial marriage was banned. Many had no right to citizenship and were regarded as aliens in major cities. Instead, they were made citizens of Bantustans, homelands scattered throughout South Africa. But resistance grew. In 1960, a huge peaceful protest against past laws ended in a massacre at Sharpeville. 69 people were killed. The deaths galvanized opposition, radicalizing liberation movements like the ANC.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
Open conflict erupted in the 1980s. with anti-apartheid activists frequently shot at, beaten or arrested. Mass protests were firmly put down. But little by little, the apartheid establishment crumbled. After gradual reform, Nelson Mandela, imprisoned since not long after Sharpeville, was set free in 1990. 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first black president. Apartheid had ended.
There you have it. So that's the story about the discrimination that experienced by the black, South African, and discrimination between them and, yes, the white minorities. And during this time, they're really fighting for their freedom, but they weren't able to get it for 46 years, and they called it apartheid. Okay, but during Nelson Mandela's time, when he won in presidential election, yes, apartheid or this discrimination ended. Okay, so what is being implied by this story is that, yes, um, there are people who are really working for something or sacrificing for something. They are actually giving their life. For example, this person or people right here in our slide, on our slide, Tutu and Nelson Mandela, they almost gave their life. There's a really sacrifice for the entire, South African people, for them to get their freedom, or yes, from freedom from discrimination that they are experiencing for so long. Next one is, a sacrifice is an expression of devoted love that does not ask for compensation. So when you are like giving a sacrifice, you are not asking anything in return, or not asking for compensation. So an example of this is the story of Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan. So this story goes like this. So Anne Sullivan is a blind woman, okay? And okay, during this time, when he like experiencing the hardship in her life, okay? So yes, there you have it. Okay, she is experiencing the hardship because she is living in a poor house. This Anne Sullivan. At the age of 5, Anne suffered from eye disease, which damaged her sight. Okay, so that's is so unfortunate for her. So when Anne was 8 years old, Anne's mother died, and Anne's father, who was an alcoholic, abandoned Anne. Okay, so when Anne and her brother were sent to the poorhouse, and Anne's brothers died due to the poor conditions of the house, and Anne fell into despair. So after Anne became blind, she often tried to commit suicide. So people thought that Anne could not recover, and she was sent to a room in the basement for mental patients. So that is very unfortunate for Anne Sullivan. So when everyone gave up on Anne's treatment, Laura, okay, who was a nurse, volunteered to take care of Anne. So rather than giving her a treatment, Laura actually became a friend to Anne. And then Laura went to Anne with biscuits to read books to her and prayed for her. So Laura gave much love to Anne. So but Anne did not say anything or eat any food that was brought to her. One day, Laura found out that one of the chocolates was gone from the plate that she put in front of Anne. So having received courage from this, Laura kept reading books to her and prayed for her. So Laura did not stop actually. So Anne slowly responded to this, and later she talked like a normal person. That's because of patient of Laura. So Anne entered the Parkins Institution, a school for the blind, and she found happiness in her life through her faith as she went to church. So later, Anne went through hardship when Laura died, but she graduated the school as an outstanding student. So she graduated as valedictorian. So in addition, she succeeded in an eyesight recovery operation, eyesight operation with the help of the newspaper company. And then one day after the surgery, Anne saw in the newspaper that a child who cannot see, hear, or talk was in need to be taken care of. So that's the time when Anne decided to return the love that she received before. So people said no one can teach that child who cannot see, hear, or talk. But Anne said, I believe in God's love. So with love, this child had grown into the most miraculous heroine in 20th century. So this child was Helen Keller, and her teacher was Anne Sullivan. So like Laura, who helped Anne become like a normal person by sympathizing with her pain, Anne Sullivan spent 48 years of her life with Helen Keller. So later, Helen Keller expressed gratitude towards Anne Sullivan in her essay called 3 Days to See. So in her essay, she said that if she could see for 3 days, she would visit her teacher, Anne Sullivan, and look at her on the first day. Okay, so that's a beautiful story. How the favor was returned because she, received same thing when she was younger. So remember, Anne Sullivan received this kind of care from Laura. That is why she is what returning the favor to Helen Keller. And the best thing in this story is when you know, yes, Helen Keller expresses her gratitude. Helen Keller is very grateful towards Anne Sullivan in her essay 3 Days to See because yeah, one Helen Keller is hoping that to visit her teacher on the first day if he has the chance to see in just 3 days. Okay? It's a very inspiring story of Anne, Helen, and Laura. And another example of sacrifice in an expression of devoted love that does not ask for a compensation is about this king, Sejong of Korea. Because this king, Sejong, is the one who actually, yes, created the alphabet for Koreans called Hangul. Because he believed that the Korean people needs a language for them to communicate and understand each other. Because for that time, there is no like language that is being used, or there's no existing language in that country. So yes, King Sejong is the one who, you know, actually tried to create this Hangul. And this Hangul is the only alphabet in the world to have clearly written historical records of the date on which it was created. So although there was great opposition during his time when he is still creating this alphabet, okay, but King Sejong is still pursued, okay, creating this alphabet. And yes, for about 10 years, quite sometimes that he is like really fighting for this one. Yes, the Hangul was now being used by Koreans. Okay, and this is a sacrifice. This is because of love. King Sejong loved the people. That is why he did everything to have this kind of alphabet that, for as of now, being used by the Koreans. Okay, and this love or this sacrifice is being given without any compensation. That is out of love. Now let's proceed to exploration number 3, practice of sacrifice. So same thing with our previous lesson about gratefulness and about, you know, practicing how to be grateful. We need also to practice, yes, same thing, practice sacrifice without compensation. How? So in this, part of the lesson, how we're going to practice sacrifice. So definitely, we need to know first what are the obstacles that hinder the practice of sacrifice. So even though we realize that the true value of a sacrifice, or even we already realize the true value of sacrifice, it is difficult to practice that sacrifice if we do not abandon our selfish interest. Okay, so we need to abandon first our selfish interest. So when we fill our hearts with only greed, then we cannot do that. We cannot give sacrifice, or we cannot give love if we have greed in our hearts. So selfishness makes us pursue our own interest or profit. Then it threatens the existence of community and diminishes our spirit of sacrifice. So if we realize the true value of sacrifice, then we have to overcome our selfish interest and make efforts to practice sacrifice. So here, selfishness makes one pursue one's own interests. So one example is which made people pursue their own interest or profit out of their selfishness is that opioids crisis. There is a situation wherein um, this is like a medical situation. Yes, opioids are a class of drugs found in opium poppy plant, and greediness is shown in what? In this situation wherein they actually created these opioids, okay, to, yes, to be used or to be utilized by people for, yes, for healing, supposedly for medicine. But actually, okay, this one is created for like for the purpose of addiction, for people to buy more, to get more. And this actually is what? Only for the benefit of the company who is creating the drug or the medicine, but actually what? Destroying people, because overdose of this drug can kill. All right. So this is because of selfish, ambition of many people. So this will what? Hinder, yes, the practice of sacrifice. But there is a Greek physician who regarded as the father of medicine, and he actually, yes, created this Declaration of Geneva, which is a revised modern draft of Hippocratic Oath, wherein all the, doctors or medical practitioners should follow this medical profession, guidelines. And here, for example, they need to obey this oath. One of that is to pledge to dedicate their lives, for the service of humanity. So as doctors, they oath to give their lives for the humanity. So permitting consideration of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. So they need to disregard all those things. So they need to what? To focus on their duty. And then respect the autonomy and dignity of the patient. So that is another oath. And then maintain the utmost respect for human life. And then not use medical knowledge to violate the human rights and civil liberties. And another is to promise or solemnly and really give the oath to what? Yes, to sacrifice their lives for their patient. Okay, so that is point number one. And then another is the importance of practicing peace in daily life. So when we are like know how to sacrifice and give help without asking any compensation, definitely it help us to what? Yes, to create a world of peace. So there's a great sacrifice in which you give your life for a friend by simply giving sacrifice to a friend by giving some small help, practicing small sacrifices in our daily life. Okay, so that's one way of practicing. Okay, if we look at the footsteps of great people, the path they have followed, for example, like Mandela, like, Anne Sullivan. So these people, these examples that we have a while ago, and then trying to practice a little sacrifice to other people, well, definitely it will, help us to be a person of that. Yes, a person who can actually give sacrifice without asking anything in return or without compensation. So for the conclusion, our happiness is based on the sacrifice of others. So we need to recognize that. So there is no happiness without sacrifice, definitely. So sacrifice shouldn't be made by force. So it should be like voluntary. So if you really want to sacrifice, it is out of love. Okay? So when we find something worthy of sacrifice, it is possible to have a devoted love that does not seek a reward. And then another, selfishness makes people pursue their own interest or profit and break the peace. So we need to remove selfishness, okay? So that there would be like love and sacrifice. And let's overcome selfishness and start the practice of, start to practice sacrifice first. And through that, we can have what? A peaceful world. So that's it. So that's the lesson number 7. See you next time for another lesson on peace education. Bye.